This video looks at follow-up activities on overdue borrowed items, a lender's recall notice, and getting closure on lost or damaged items. Let's look at overdue first. Staff should try to contact patrons to urge them to return overdue items. You might telephone the patron, or a quick and convenient method is to email the patron right from the overdue request itself if you have the patron's email address. This is called Send User Alert action. So we'll select that and we'll check for an email address. And there isn't one. If you don't have the patron's email in the request, but can find it somewhere in your circulation system, then you can usually add it with a local change request details action. So let's look at that now. That allows you to change a detail on your request. So we're going to visit the patron section and we're going to add the email address that we were able to find. And we'll select Save to save that edit on the request. And now coming back to the request, I can use the Send User Alert action. This opens a Send User Alert screen, and it's very important for you to know that you type the contents of the note in the patron note box and not private note. Private note is staff viewing only, so you want to be sure that you put it in the patron note box. I'm in the habit of dating my notes. I'm also in the habit of having a Word file down in my taskbar with the commonly used statements that I send when I use a Send User Alert. This is an overdue, and this is typically what I say, so I'm just going to copy and paste into the patron note box, and it saves me a lot of typing. Copy, paste, and then hit send. So that action was successful, and the patron is getting an email from the library to urge them to return their overdue item. And now let's look at recalled. If we select this, we see that the lending library has sent us a recall status on this, which they can do at any point in the request life cycle. It can be before the due date they've given you or after. And you should make every attempt to get this back to that library as soon as possible. Again, you would communicate with the patron either by telephone or Send User Alert email. At some point, you may need to declare an overdue item as damaged or lost and request an invoice for replacement costs from the lending library. This King's Ransom title, we did send a user alert to the patron, reminding them that it was overdue. Let's imagine that you heard back from that patron that they are unable to find the item. They've lost it. At this point, you would update the status to lost and apply the lost action. While you have the action lost screen up, you should, in the public note area, request an invoice from the lender. So you would say something along the lines of, please send an invoice for replacement cost or forgiveness on the lost item so we can process for closure. So that's the note to the lending library. It's a public note. Private note, you might type a note to yourself as to what your next steps will be. Telephone lender if no invoice received by end of the month. And then you select report lost. When you update the status to lost, it will appear in your borrower work queue under reported loss by borrower. When When you've received an invoice and are making payment, you would find the item in reported loss by borrower, and you would communicate with the lender that you are mailing the check. Send public note action, and date your note, or check number 456 sent. Please check in this item when payment received. This will provide closure. Thanks. There we go. And you'll send that note along and letting them know the check's on the way. If you're doing a little housekeeping and you see that something has been in here a very long time without the lender checking it in, you could send them another public note reminding them to check the item in, or you could use the complete action on it to clear it from your work queue if you're satisfied that all the transactions are concluded. You should follow up on overdues by contacting the patron, urging them to return the item. You know what to do if you get a recall notice from a lending library, and you know what to do if you have to declare something lost and negotiate invoicing and payment.